And so, to begin with the actual Let's Play itself, we're going to be diving right into the very first 3D Mario adventure. This what appears to be Super Mario 64. Of course, as to be expected, that this game came out in 1996 in Japan and North America, but in a year later, in 1997, for European countries and Australia. Now, here's the thing with this particular version of Super Mario 64 this time around, that you might actually notice something completely different compared to the forms of how it does it back in, well, we did this game back in, 2016, so as a result though, the quality is pretty good, even though the commentary gets a little bit iffy at points, but regardless of everything else though, this time around though, we're going to be doing this game within 720p with a, well, let's just say a crystal clear picture quality this time around, as well as from that, no pixelation or anything. So either way, as you can see on screen, unfortunately this is the only game of the three that has no widescreen support at all. So it's basically, it kind of reminds me like Sonic Adventure with the HD ports to the game, specifically the Xbox 360 and the PlayStation 3 versions, that basically we pretty much stuck with 4.3 original ratio screen resolution. So, oh well, no big deal, but at least that the actual picture quality looks much more nicer now. So yeah, I apologize for that tongue twisting the end right here.
Dear Mario, please come to the castle. I have baked a cake for you. Yours truly, Princess Toadstool. Peach.
So yes, just like before, that Mario just somehow jumped out of the pipe, very much like the original version of the game, as well as the forms of Super Mario 64 DS as well. Well, the only missing feature is the fact that there's no Luigi and Wario, or even, well, generally Yoshi will always be there until you're able to... Well, as I said before, I'm going to be going for the 100% completion when it comes to all three games combined for the sake of this. Well, I'm not gonna lie, this is gonna be the huge Let's Play we're gonna be doing with. Although, we'll talk more about that whenever we're able to actually continue for this. So, yeah, as you noticed about the fact that the controls for the likes of Super Mario 64, specifically the 3D All-Stars version of the game, has been slightly different slightly. Like, rather than just trying to able to have just the A button to jump, we now actually access to both buttons that will feature the jump, which either will be A or B. And as far as punching is concerned, or some cases a jump kick, you now need to able to press the X and Y, or X or Y, depending on what specific type you want to go to. Which I'll talk more about the another significant differences between the original version of Super Mario 64 compared to the forms of multiple versions throughout. So here we go on to course number 1. BOB-OMB Battlefield, the iconic world throughout the game. Big BOB-OMB on the summit is the first mission that we can tackle through. So, yeah, how it works for Super Mario 64 from the likes of, well, compared to the original version on the game on the N64 version, compared to the Switch version as a, well, let's just say an emulation port, because, well, graphical standpoint, it's nothing that much different compared to the forms of how it does in the original version of the game, aside from upscaled to the likes of, well, generally speaking, I think this game is potentially running on 720p as opposed to 1080p, unlike Super Mario Sunshine and Super Mario Galaxy, but as a result though, that it still looks quite nice, even though despite the fact that some people complain about the fact that this game doesn't age that well when it comes to the graphics standpoint, but I think it's still, this game still holds up very well and pretty nicely at the same time. So because of that though, like, you know, back in 1996, that it still is a huge success back in the day. So as a result though, that I'm very glad that this game did manage to make a comeback for the sake of the Switch version, so that way, in addition to able to make the game slightly a little bit more nicer than the original version of the game, but also if you try to play us on handheld mode, thank Christ, you can now able to actually play this game on the go. So yeah, that seems a pretty cool addition. Well, despite the fact that we've already got Super Mario 64 DS, that also you can able to play the game on the go. So as a result though, you now have two accessibility versions of play on the go for Super Mario 64 or the N64 version. Well, to be more specifically, there is now, you know, 3 versions, or technically 2 versions of Super Mario 64 on the Switch. Like, one of them I'm playing right now is the 3D All-Stars version, and another one for the sake of the forms of the Switch Online Membership Service expansion pack. So, yeah, it's pretty insane if you ask me. So, yeah, you probably get the idea of how this is going. So, and also, as far as you know, it's about the fact that what the actual main difference is between the original release of Super Mario 64 compared to this, is the fact that for this particular version of Super Mario 64 on the 3D All-Stars version, now, actually, I'll get to more now in a second, because here we go on to the next mission, Fudge Race with Koopa the Quick. So, although, this time around though, unlike the forms of how it does it back on the Let's Play of Super Mario 64 back in 2016, that I somehow managed to able to get the what mission I was going to be aiming for. Like, for some reason, I always attempt to go for the 6th mission first before we get on to the rest of the missions. But every now and then, I've decided to do things a little bit more differently. So, speaking of some other differences I might as well do, that is the fact that I'm going to be mainly focusing on the main worlds before we get on to the Castle Secret Stars. So that way we can able to actually have ourselves a bit of a different variety when it comes to multiple playthroughs. So, at least for I've seen certain comparisons for the sake of like, well, I know for the fact that it has been such a long while since I did manage to able to actually last time I played Super Mario 64, because that was the last time I played the game, which is on, well, ironically, on the 3D All-Stars version of the game. So, anyway, so for this particular version of Super Mario 64 on the 3D All-Stars version, that the version I'm playing right now, I think this is actually based off from the likes of the 1997 re-release of the Japanese version of Super Mario 64, known as the Super Mario 64 Shindu Edition, which meaning the only thing it does manage to feature in that version is that it does support Rumble, which is actually kind of a cool thing, and also they did manage to able to replace some of the voice clips, and so what if we get into Bowser on a Dark Road level, that I'm sure that most people already know exactly what I'm going to talk about. So, anyway, so we've managed to beat Koopa the Quick right here. Almost on an average run. I could have wished if I was going to go for the best run if possible, but unfortunately though is the fact that I somehow, for whatever reason, just couldn't seem to able to actually get my movements a bit steadier. So, mission number 3, shoot to the island at the sky, or on the sky I should say, I have no idea. Maybe because about the fact that for some reason I just select the mission quite fast, so hopefully it's on in the next video, then I should be able to slow things, slow down every now and then, so anyways, today's day is of course the 3rd of January today, in this case in 2022 today. So apparently from what I've heard about the forms of some of the Odeon websites is the fact that usually relatively speaking they recently added in some more films coming on Odeon you know, cinemas to the table. Like for instance they managed to add Turning Red, which is a new Pixar film, is going to be releasing until this spring, for what I've heard. And also the new Lightyear movie, which is almost inspired by the Toy Story Buzz Lightyear character, which is going to be pretty hyped, I'm not gonna lie. And also on top of that, with the Sonic the Hedgehog 2 movie, which I'm super hyped about. And maybe in the future, that the new Mario movie should be showing up and doing later on throughout the whole 2022 year. Well, assuming if they'll be able to discuss more about that for the sake of time. Mission number 4, find the 8 red coins. So, and originally I was expecting to try to go for the 100 coin Power Star mission, but I'll save that for later, because well, much like in the forms of the original version of the game, including Super Mario 64 DS as a remake on the Nintendo DS, basically about the fact that they are not 100% accurate when it comes to able to try to complete the whole entire world within the 100% accomplishments. So, but there are a few times that we get out to able to revisit onto certain worlds until whenever we go back onto certain stuff. So, anyways, let's blast out the cannon right here and bypass the tree completely, but that's okay because we've already got the red coin from the get-go, so I should be alright with this. So yeah, originally for the likes of Super Mario 3D All-Stars when it's been developed, that originally they were trying to able to remake Super Mario 64 from the ground up, from the likes of making the best visual identity as much as we possibly could, making this a much more of a gorgeous 3D Mario game to date. But for some reason though, due to the forms of the stupid pandemic that has been happened from the likes of like almost 2 years ago. So as a result though, everything else is entirely emulation. So because of that though, that pretty much summarized the forms of, well, the only disappointing aspect with Super Mario 3D All-Stars is that, well, it's all about emulation and stuff. So because of that though, they were expecting to able to have some quality of life improvements, but for some reason, they just somehow didn't seem to do it. Like, here's an example. When it comes to Super Mario Sunshine, you know, with that most people found 100% in the game a nightmare to do, that is obviously going to be involved around with, well, blue coins and all that stuff, which for some reason they never fixed it in this version of the game, which we'll get to Super Mario Sunshine after we finish up with Super Mario 64 first, because of chronological order, and also just to make things a little bit more sense, because much like, you know, with our Let's Play of Super Mario All-Stars back in 2017, that I obviously did manage to tackle every single 2D Mario games from the chronological order when it comes to releases. So let's move on to the next world, which is WHOMP'S Fortress, and the first mission we have is chip off WHOMP'S block. So basically we'll stumble across the next boss fight, which should be the WHOMP King. So, yeah, it should be, worth noting for. And also that one thing they did manage to able to have a massive criticism is the fact that, or actually multiple criticism with this particular collection, is that not only, I've already mentioned about the fact that this is all emulated, so as a result though, it's not exactly like a remake of any sort, it's more like a port. So as a result though, yeah, that's to be expected. And also another controversial thing about this is the fact that this game somehow gets a limited release, although frankly you can still get the game physically from the second-hand stores, which is an excellent start for certain candidates, but unfortunately for digital download versions, they somehow took it off after about almost a year ago. Like, for instance, on you know, the 31st of March in 2021, that is easily the worst tragic day for the sake of Mario State, because not only does this game now delisted on the eShop, you know, for Nintendo Switch eShop application, but also same applies to forms of, well, certain amount of events, including the forms of Super Mario Bros. 35, will be no longer playable. Well, I can still re-download it, whenever I did manage to download it for free, back when it came out, but unfortunately I could no longer play the game because of the service has been shut down for a short amount of time. Like, almost 5 months. Seriously? Anyway, mission 2, to the top of the fortress. So, and, yeah, because relatively speaking, it's just the fact that, well, assuming if you, God forbid, if you're trying to able to find a game within sealed copy, oh god, it's gonna get ramped up with money. So because of that though, yeah, best to able to actually just try to get on second-hand stores, if possible, if you're lucky. So, and third, and perhaps even the most disappointing thing about this collection, over the likes of Super Mario All-Stars on the Super Nintendo / Nintendo Wii, is that Super Mario Galaxy 2 is absent in this collection, which I honestly have no idea of how they couldn't seem to able to bother adding Galaxy 2 to this collection, because if it does, then there will be the best ever collection that's ever have. Although, don't get me wrong, I did have a really have a fun time replaying for those 3 Mario's Adventures again, but this time on the forms of the hybrid console, the Nintendo Switch. So as a result though, that I can still recommend the collection still, but it's just a shame they do have some questionable choices, like for instance with the limited time release, and also the absence of Super Mario Galaxy 2, and also its emulation all over the place. Alright, mission 3, shoot into the wild blue. So in this case, it's the fact that we have to rely on the actual cannon, so, you know, just like the forms of how it does it on BOB-OMB Battlefield that we've already tackled through. So yeah, that was a bit of a mouthful whenever I did manage to discuss upon the controversial stuff that has been happening for the sake of when Super Mario 3D All-Stars first came out on the Nintendo Switch. Even though, mind you, about the fact that this is still a great collection, but even then though, that it did manage to charge everyone $60 for the actual entire collection back in the day, which I think that was a bit too much compared to the forms of how it does it on the original copies of, well, let's just say the second-hand versions of Super Mario 64 that is considerably cheaper to get, and also Super Mario Sunshine, despite it might be a bit expensive on certain stuff, but ultimately though, it is a bit cheaper though. And same applies to Super Mario Galaxy, so anyways, mission 4, red coins on the floating isle, so and this is the point where I'm going to be able to not only tackle for the red coin mission, but also get the 100 coin Power Star mission, so yeah, it has been a really long while since we actually done one of these since in Super Mario Sunshine on the GameCube version back in 2020, the worst year ever made. But let's not talk about that right now because we are now moving on to the likes of 2022, which I think so far that 2022 looks very promising, especially noticeable with all these, you know, new films coming out for it, and also some new games coming out for it, like, of course, the one I'm really excited for is, of course, well, anything, honestly. Like, you know, Kirby and the Forgotten Land, and also say applies to Mario Plus Rabbids Sparks of Hope, despite the fact that I'm still stuck on the first game because of the forms of, well, World 3-4 just gives me a little bit of a nightmare to able to progress. And, also, The Legend of Zelda Breath of the Wild 2, which, it still hasn't got the name yet, but, hopefully they will do, maybe in this year's E3, if possible. And, let's just hope it does not get cancelled for the E3 for this year, unlike 2020, which, again, we're not going to discuss on that. So, anyway, and, also it's worth noting for is the fact that, as you probably noticed, is the fact that I'm usually going to be playing, well, let's just say, whenever we get into the forms of, well, as you probably already know, that I'm still playing Super Mario 64 on here, and whenever we get into Super Mario Sunshine, I think it's probably best to say that I think I should probably play the game within the Switch Pro controller. However, whenever we get into Super Mario Galaxy though, I think I should probably be able to go for the Joy-Con controllers, although sure it might be unnecessary because of the forms of how the fact that, well, it will cause the actual Joy-Con drifting, which I'm hoping that won't be the case for the sake of the Let's Play itself. And also about the fact that much like Super Mario Odyssey back in 2018 and 19, whenever we did that Let's Play back in the day, that for some reason we just ended up using the Switch Pro controller at all times because the game expects you to be able to actually use the recommendation for, oh, you know what I mean, use the actual, the Joy-Con controllers for the cappy throws and stuff like that, but, I digress. Now, apparently though, what I've heard from several rumors or leaks, despite the fact that I don't usually trust rumors or leaks as that often, because it actually breaks pinky promise, by able to actually just able to bring up some lawyer reveal bits and bobs, but, apparently that maybe Super Mario Odyssey 2 might be on its way for this year or next year, depending on the forms of how the fact that trouble development when it comes to likely for working at home most of the time, which as a result though that can be quite stingy when it comes to likely for working at home sometimes, although it does give anyone else a bit of time to able to polish the game if possible. But at least luckily though, we still got some more games coming out for it for the sake of this year in 2022. Like I mentioned this already, Kirby and the Forgotten Land, and also Mario Plus Rabbids Sparks of Hope, The Legend of Zelda Breath of the Wild 2, and of course we can never forget to mention about Splatoon 3, And of course, Sonic Frontiers for multi-platforms, ranging from, you know, PS4, Xbox One, PS5, Xbox Series X/S, and of course the Nintendo Switch, and even PC. So, yeah, that should be pretty exciting, all things considered. Although we still haven't exactly heard of everything for the sake of Sonic Origins, which is supposed to be like the ultimate Sonic compilation game, despite the fact that, relatively speaking, it's missing certain titles, like, for instance, that Sonic Spinball wasn't even on there. But anyways, let's move on to Mission 5. Fall onto the Caged Island. So, and I think this is going to be one of the trickiest missions to do, because for some reason, I keep on thinking about Super Mario 64 DS for some reason, because if you remember back in about a year ago, what, I believe Sonic did manage to able to actually tackle for that Let's Play back in the day, and as a result though, that he somehow managed to find that mission pretty easy on the DS remake, but for some reason on this version, I always seem to have a hard time trying to able to get into that godforsaken cage, but, luckily, instead of trying to do all that while we try to wait for the owl to show up again, I figure I'm also able to do a different mission, despite the fact that I was originally trying to go for the challenge by able to actually go for the actual order of missions, but somehow I failed the task, so whatever. It's entirely up to you if you decide able to go for this way, so. Although unlike in Super Mario Sunshine and Super Mario Galaxy, that's at least they try to tell you where you're supposed to go. So because of that though, for the sake of likely for, well, in Super Mario Galaxy, for the sake of that particular example, that certain missions can be like linear sometimes. But regardless of such, it's still a blast to play if you decide to able to go for like, well, it's hard to say honestly because it's been such a long while since I actually did manage to play this game. So, because I think the last time I played this game, as far as the entire compilation game goes, oh, and by the way, for that mission right here, Blast Away the Wall, is the name of the Forms of the 6th mission, by the way, so I just want to classify that. So anyways, let's move on to the final mission in WHOMP'S Fortress. Okay, quick air right there, because, well, it actually did took me a couple of tries to do it, so because of that though, I figured I probably know the solution, what the actual problem solving as far as this is gonna concern. So basically, we need to hop onto the actual owl, or try to hold on to the owl, and rather than just trying to able to move the control stick in the exact direction, I highly recommend you do a ground pound exactly, because obviously if you ground pound on the right time, basically you get yourselves a star immediately. So I just want to classify that right about now. So there we go, that we basically 100% everything on WHOMP'S Fortress. So pretty easy world to able to end off with, well to begin with anyway. So anyway, so I think let's probably go ahead and move on to the next level. So we should probably need 3 power stars to able to activate the door. So at least even then we can able to hop into the next world, which should be familiar to you, which is Jolly Roger Bay. And the first mission we have is Plunder in the Sunken Ship. So basically it's the fact that, well, since this is on the this is based off from Super Mario 64 on the N64, so this means that unlike Super Mario 64 DS, if you go near to the eel, basically though is the fact that he goes out instantly while you're simply able to actually go into the hull on that particular, you know, the sunken ship. Whilst in here, along with the forms of the original N64 version, including the honorable mentions, which is the Virtual Console re-releases, in addition to the Switch Online Membership Services version, that basically does the fact that if you go near to the eel and try to swim back up, just in case you don't waste your air, and then basically does the fact that, well, if you try to swim back down, basically that the eel will start to able to move eventually. So yeah, as you can see on screen, almost anyway. So of course that's we have to go for the treasure order for the actual, like, you know, once the actual water starts to able to sink and stuff like that. So, but I digress. But I suppose there's not much else I can honestly try to describe about the forms of the entirety of Super Mario 3D All-Stars compilation game. So it's just the fact, the matter is though, is the fact that, and also another thing too, that much like in Super Mario All-Stars for the Nintendo Wii version, that usually it's an anniversary game for the Mario series. Because remember back in 2010, they managed to able to, well, let's just say re-released Super Mario All-Stars on the Super Nintendo and trying to port it over to the Nintendo Wii. And with the additional content they've got, not only does it contain the Super Nintendo game, Super Mario All-Stars, but slap onto the Wii disc as the forms of the Wii ports to the game, but also it contains a pretty nifty 25th anniversary of the Super Mario Bros. Soundtrack, which is pretty cool back then. So yeah, that's something worth noting for the sake of time. And compare it to the forms of 2020, that this actually comes in with the forms of, well, I'll discuss on that in a second, because the next mission we have, can the eel come out to play? Oh god, this mission can be dreadful sometimes, especially with it's kind of a problematic about the fact that the hit detection on trying to able to get the star from the eel's tail is actually kind of feels a bit finicky though, which as a result though, it can usually happen in some cases anyway, so... Anyway, and I suppose that's pretty much about it. Oh yeah, for the sake of in the 2020, aka the worst year ever made, and I know I keep on saying for this point, but I'll promise you guys until the next video that I'm not going to mention that year ever again. So yeah, with 2020, that's basically that particular year marks the 35th anniversary of the Super Mario Bros. Series, and this is one of those games they did manage to announce, along with Mario Kart Live Home Circuit, and also Super Mario 3D World plus Bowser's Fury, which later came onto 2021, which is certainly, I will have to admit though, the best Wii U port ever, and along with Mario Kart 8 Deluxe. And unfortunately though, there goes my first death, because again, it's just the fact that it's not as easy to able to get the star out of the eel's tail. But that's okay though, because we can try this again, so... Anyway, and also, they include the Game & Watch Super Mario Bros. Edition, which actually includes 2 Mario games, which are Super Mario Bros. The Original, along with Super Mario Bros. 2, aka Super Mario Bros. The Lost Levels, in the international English versions. Well, mind you, it only came out in Japan, and simply calls it Super Mario Bros. 2. And finally, the Game & Watch board game, but with a Mario skin. So, yeah, that might be the only thing to worth noting for. And also, Super Mario Bros. 35, which I've already mentioned about this already, so there's no point mentioning about that again. And also some more merchandises back then, and also several events for certain games and stuff, like Mario Kart Tour, and also Super Smash Bros. Ultimate, and even Splatoon 2, and I suppose that's pretty much as far as I can describe about it. Oh, and also Super Mario All-Stars also came out on the likes of the Switch Online membership service, so thankfully Super Mario All-Stars on the Switch Online membership service is still there, so at least unlike in 3D All-Stars version on the likes of the digital version of the game, that's kind of a shame it doesn't last for long, so... But again, as I mentioned this before, that luckily you can still get the game, or you can still get the compilation game physically on the secondhand stores, so for reasonably a bit of a cheaper price, at least I think so. Mission number 3, Treasure of the Ocean Cave. I think what I'm gonna do, I think I might as well do one more mission for this video, so that way that the star count will able to make it up to 14 stars in this one video, so... Although, before we get into Super Mario Sunshine and Super Mario Galaxy on this entire playthrough of Super Mario 3D All-Stars, that we don't think we can probably necessarily try to able to get every single, like, multitude of stars here and there. Oh, and by the way, just for curiosity, I'm also going to be including the Luigi's playthrough of Super Mario Galaxy on the 3D All-Stars compilation game, despite it's a bit redundant, but regardless of such though, I think it's probably best to able to mention about that for the sake of time, because, well, again, it still feels a bit redundant if you decide to do for this way. Well, that's probably just me anyway, because, you know, I'm still a great fan with the forms of Super Mario Galaxy, the original. Although I do love Mario Galaxy 2 a bit more, just because of the forms of a lot of visuals look really pops in with colors and such, but that's probably just me. So anyways, the treasure order is top, left, right, and the bottom, by the way, just to classify for those who haven't played the game already, so... yeah, I guess suffice to say, I think we should probably end things off this point right here. So join me next time for more of Let's Play of Super Mario 3D All-Stars from the likes of Super Mario 64 game. That is the fact that we'll still continue things on in Jolly Roger Bay, and hopefully grab some more Power Stars and eventually do some more levels. So I'll see you guys on Wednesday. Later, fellas.